So in today's session, we will talk about loops in Java. But first, I want to hear from you if you have any questions about the previous topics. Like we had last session, we had the review on Java variables, uh, conditions, if else, and switch. We also had discussion about operators. So please, if you have any question about any of these topics, please let me know before we start discussing loops.
Okay, sounds good. No questions. There's no questions.
No questions. Okay, great. So now it's time to talk about loops in Java. I will share my screen with you. Give me a moment. You can see my screen now, right? Can you see my screen?
I can, yep.
Okay, that is our project, Cody Training. I think sharing has stopped. Let me do it one more time. So that's our project. We had a revision last session. We talked about if else and switch. Today we're gonna talk about loops. So here in our project, I will create a new package. We'll talk about package later, but for now you can assume package as a folder where we group some related classes together. Okay, so I will create a new package. I will call it loops. Okay. Inside this loops package, or you can say folder, you will create a new Java class. I will call it loops also. Note that the naming convention for Java class begins with capital letter. Unlike the package, it begins with a small letter or a lowercase letter. Okay. So you told me before that you have studied a little bit about loops. So can you tell me now, what do you know about loops?
They're iterations. It's like an iteration. Each iteration is one.
Yes, exactly. Like for example, if we have a list and we want to create each and every element of this list, we will use loop. That is one use.
It's still a bit confusing.
Yes.
It's still a little bit confusing for me. Like it doesn't make 100% sense to me.
Yeah,
I see.
What you just said is totally correct. Like it's totally correct, but let's rephrase it or give it a general definition. Okay, I will type it here. For example, like you already know that we want to have a brief note about our topic here in the comments. So I will start typing with number 1. I will tell you loops. Sorry. Loops in any programming language. Whether it's Java or any other language, it's used to execute a block of code multiple times. Here, for example, I should put main method first before I forget. Here, for example, if I type system.out.println hello Java. How many times this statement will get printed on the screen if I run this program?
One.
Only one, because our program get executed once and it execute line by line. Okay, what if I want to print this statement multiple times? Like I can copy, paste, and repeat the same code one more time to print the same statement. Like if I run again, I have three print statements. Each of them has hello Java. So here I
Yeah.
got hello Java 3 times. But this is not it's not a smart way to do the repetition. Like what
Yeah.
what if I want to repeat this statement 100 times or 1 million times? Like it doesn't make any sense that I will repeat this code for 100 or 1 million times.
Yeah.
So here loops comes to the scene. So loop is used to execute a block of code multiple times. And when I say block of code, like anytime I say block of code, like you should understand that I'm talking about a space like this in between two curly brackets. Okay, this I call it block of code. Okay, like the beginning of our block is this opening curly bracket. Okay, and the closing curly bracket indicates the end of our code block. You understand? Hello? Okay, very good.
Yeah.
In general, loops are used to repeat a block of code multiple times. And in Java, you know how many loop we have in Java?
3 or
Yes,
4.
exactly. No, we have 3 loops in Java. We have
A while loop, a while.
3 different loops, which are first of all we have for loop, and then we have while loop, and last we have do while loop. Do while. Nine. It's 3, 4, while, and do while. Okay, this is our main 3 loops in Java. Okay, do you know anything about the difference between each one of them?
For loop is the
Like
main
each
standard.
of them has its own characteristics and usage. Like according
For loop
to
is
your understanding, can you tell me any of these difference between each of
yeah.
these? Mm.
They're all the same thing, but they do different. They do differently. They're different stages. They all do the same thing though.
Yes, they are all looping or iterating
Yeah, the same
the
thing, but
same
different staging.
same way, but they have some different, let's say,
Yeah, different syntax. A little different syntax.
yes, exactly, different syntax and different usage also. Like main difference between for loop and while and do while. For loop is used when I have a certain number of repetition. Like for example, if I know I need to repeat this code for 5 times or 10 times, so I have a certain number of repetition. Okay, So in that case, I will use for loop. But what if I'm not sure about how many times I want to repeat this code? In that case, I will use while loop or do while. You understand?
Yeah, for loop is the standard one, right?
Like, for example, here I have hello Java. If I want to repeat hello Java 5 times, I'm certain about number of repetition, so I will use for loop. Okay, but what if I want to put a condition, like for example, as long as what, like for example, let me give you an example. Int x equal 100. Okay, and I want to say as long as x is greater than 9, okay, print hello Java. I'm not sure how many times I'm gonna repeat this hello Java, because I'm not controlling the value of x. Like maybe it will remain 100 for so long, so I have to repeat also this code for so long. I'm not controlling the logic of x. Like for example, in some other part of my code, I can put x minus equal 80. So now, what is the value of x?
20.
20, exactly. So I deducted 80 points in one bulk, okay, from the value of x. This, of course, will reduce the number of repetition of hello Java. But what if I make this 80, I make it only 8? This will increase the number of repetition, because I don't know when exactly I will reach my condition when x reaches a value less than 9. When exactly, I don't know. I'm not controlling when I'm gonna reach the value of 9 or less than 9. So I'm not controlling here number of repetition of hello world, okay? Or sorry, hello Java. This is an example of the usage of while loop, okay? So let me write it here. For loop is used when we have a certain number of repetition. On the other hand, while loop and do while loop are used when we are not sure about how many times we have to repeat our code. Okay. Do you know the difference between while loop and do while loop?
Do while is do this first before we iterate. Do this first before we add up.
Yes, exactly. But while loop, it checks the condition first. If correct, it will get executed. If it's false, it will not get executed. It will break. But do while, it will execute the code first and then it will check the condition. So in while loop, number of repetition could be 0. Why could be 0? Because from the first time, if we check the condition inside while loop and it's false, okay, so the code inside while loop will never get executed. But number of repetition in do while is at least 1. And don't worry if you are confused, you will see all this in code very soon. But I guess you already understand this point, right? Okay. What else? Yeah. Do you know how many type of for loops we have?
We have three.
What is this 3? Can you tell me?
What's your question?
Can you tell me of these 3 types of for loop?
The 3 types.
I cannot hear you.
3 types of for loop. What's the
No, bro. We have only 2 types of for loop. We have 2 types of for loop in Java. Normal for loop, normal for, and for each. For each is a more simple version of for loop that is used to iterate lists. And we will see an example about this for each when we talk about arrays and lists later. Later in this course, okay, we will have an example about for each. But for today, we're gonna talk about normal for loop, okay?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, very good. Finally, we have to talk about the syntax of each one of them. Like I will try to write a simple formula that will let you understand the syntax of each one of them. For syntax, we use the for keyword and 2 brackets like this one. We put here in these 2 brackets, we put 3 three steps or three stages. First, we put a variable containing initial value. Okay. Then we put semicolon. Then the second step is to put condition. Last, and of course, after each step of this, we put semicolon. Okay. Last, we put like increment or decrement. Like we increase our initial value or decrease our initial value, or decrement initial value. Okay. Now we are done with the three components, our for loop. Here we will put the body of the loop itself. So we'll use opening curly brackets and closing curly brackets. Okay. Here in between, in this block of code, okay, here we type the code we want to repeat. Okay. Is it clear the syntax of for loop? We use the for keyword, we open two brackets. In between these two brackets, we put three components. First is a variable containing initial value and then semicolon. Second, we put a condition. Like for example, if our variable here is x, we check here if x is less than 5, okay, and then semicolon. Last, we increment or decrement initial value. Okay. Then we put our for block with two curly brackets, opening and closing. Inside this block, we put the code we want to repeat. You understand?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. Let's move on to while loop. While syntax. While keyword two brackets like this. Okay. Inside here we put condition. Only, and here open curly bracket, closing curly bracket. Inside here we put code we want to repeat, and we put one more thing, which is logic to increment or decrement our initial value. And note that our initial value here is not a part of while loop syntax. Unlike for loop, like for loop here, it's a must to put our initial value here inside the for loop. But in while loop, our initial value could be anywhere.
Yes.
Could be anywhere in our code. Okay. You want me to write this note? Yes, I will.
Sure.
In while loop, initial value is not part of while syntax. plus we must add logic to increment or decrement initial value inside while block. Number 10, do while number 9 is shared between while and do while. Okay, like this note number 9, okay, about the initial value and the logic to increment and decrement, it's shared between while and do while. Okay, this note is for both while loop and do while loop. You understand?
Yes.
Okay. Let's say do while syntax. Sorry, there is a typo here. Yes. As you said before, we will execute our code first using do keyword, do, and then we will put our block of code here in between two curly brackets. Here we put the code we want to repeat, and also we put the logic to increment or decrement our initial value. Lastly, we'll put while keyword, okay, and here in between these two brackets, okay, here we will put our condition. Okay. Last note here, I want to say that all loops in Java could be nested or infinite. You understand what is meant by nested or infinite? Nested means that I can put a for loop inside the block of another for loop. So I have inner and outer for loop. Same thing with while loop or with do while loop. Okay, that's for the nested. For infinite means it runs forever, like it never stops. Okay, and we will see all this in details. Okay, like we'll have examples for each and every one of them. Okay.
Okay.
Please, if you have any questions, go
It
ahead.
looks. I'd like to see it like maybe can I see it in code? The differences in code, maybe.
Differences in, of course,
Yeah, like syntax.
like of course you will know the difference in code. Like here, I just put formula, like to understand what is the components of the syntax. Okay, and I'm telling you what is the keyword. Like do is a keyword. Like we will use it like whenever we use a do while loop, we will use the keyword do and the keyword while. Okay, but for example, this condition, I type the word condition because I want you to understand that in between these two brackets, we will put a condition.
Yeah.
But in code, we will write a real condition. Like, for example, if x greater than or equal 50. This is a real condition. Okay. In code, we will type a condition like that. But I just type here the condition because I want you to understand the formula of the syntax. Okay?
Yeah.
What else?
Well, look, can I see the differences written down like in blocks of code? In like code, can I see the differences? What they look like?
Exactly. You remember this hello Java?
Yeah.
Here, we will write a simple for loop. Okay. To repeat this hello Java multiple times. First, we have to put initial value. For example, I will put int I equal 0. Like most of the time, we begin counting with 0. This is our rule in programming in general. Okay, we never count starting from 1, but starting from 0. So this is my initial value for this very simple for loop example. Okay, and I put semicolon. Next component inside these two brackets, I have to put a condition. What is the condition? Like I will say, if I less than, for example, 5. Okay, this is my condition. So as if I'm telling for loop, this is your initial value, and as long as this I, which is your initial value, is less than 5, please go print hello Java on the screen. Okay, once you finish executing this block of code, okay, come here in the last step and increment increment our initial value. Okay, and check the condition again. Is it true or not?
No,
Like,
it's not true. It's not true.
I'm telling you now, like the sequence of execution for loop. Like this one is the first thing to execute to give initial value. Okay, and it's executed only once at the very beginning of the for loop. Okay, then we check this condition. So here our initial value I equal to 0. Second step in execution is I less than 5. This is our condition. Tell me, is it
False.
true or false?
False. The whole thing's false. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's true.
5.
I mean,
I equal 0, and I'm checking if I less than 5.
yes, yeah. Yeah, Islet is true. I
True,
mean,
yes, because 0 is less than 5. So
okay.
this condition is true. Once I find this condition is true, I will go execute whatever inside this block. Okay.
And how many
Once
times
I finish execution of this block, I will come here at the last step to increase my initial value by 1 or by 2 or whatever. Okay. So here I increase I by 1. It's my choice. Okay. Like I can like increment this by 2 or by 3 or by 5 or by 10, whatever. But here I chose to increase the initial value by 1. This is, okay, the last step. Okay, now we have said before, loops are all about repetition. So our first iteration now is done successfully. What we're gonna do to begin our second iteration, we will check again this condition. Now, what is the value of I?
0.
I started with 0 as the initial value. And in our last step, we increased I by 1. So now, what is the value of I?
It's 0. So it's going to be +1 up to 5. It's 5. No.
It's gonna be 1 because we started with 0. Sorry. We started with 0, okay? And we just incremented it by 1. So now value of I, sorry. Value of I is 1. We come back here to check our condition. Is I less than 5?
Yes.
Yes, so again, we will execute this block of code. And again, we're gonna increase this I by 1, so it will become 2. And now we are done with the second iteration. We will check for the third iteration.
It goes up to 5, right? It goes all the way up to 5?
Yes, exactly, up to 5. So we'll ask a question. Is 2 less than 5? Yes,
Yep.
2 is less than 5. So it's true. So again, we're gonna check, we're gonna execute this one more time. And
Why?
1 to I, it will become 3. Again, 3 less than 5. So it's true. We'll execute this code and then we'll add 1 to I. So I will become 4. Is 4 less than 5? Yes, 4 is less than 5. So we'll execute and we will add 1 to 4. Here, I will become 5. Is 5 less than 5? No, it's false. So here our for loop will break. Here we will say,
how come?
yeah, end of for loop. Why? Because 5 is not less than 5. 5 equals to 5, but not less than 5. You understand?
Okay.
Here,
What?
5